Okay, so we have a couple questions that people wrote in, and thought maybe we could talk about that this week.
Sure, whatever the audience would like to discuss.
All right. So I'm gonna start with this one. This is for LA Z Man.
Tom's Inc.
Not to be confused with the Z Man. Says, do you think do you think your dad would have stayed with Dingo Warrior had he not gone to WWF? Is the first part of his question. Um,
Well, because Dingo had already turned babyface,
mhm.
and Dad was already no longer managing him at the time. However, when Dad got the booking job the second time in '87, Dingo was going to be the foundation for what Dad was going to pull off doing. We talked about that before. With he was going to be the de facto third Von Erich, and there was going to be a turn bruiser Brody heel to work with Dingo. So that really kind of changed things. But as far as staying with him, no, he was going to go to the WWF anyway.
Yeah, and my comment is, yeah, I I just don't know how much Dad had to do with the Dingo's booking in world class
After he
at the
after he left him, not much at all. But if
yeah.
you notice the matches that Dingo had with Dad's guys, Abdullah and Jeep
Well,
Swinson
yeah, if
and
it was
Nord the
Dad's
Barbarian,
guy,
those
yeah.
guys, it was structured. But the way Dingo turned babyface against Matt and Percy and
Mm,
Buzz Sawyer, that was
mm,
textbook Gary Hart. But Dad's basic thing with Dingo was when he had him with him, because if you can't get a guy over quickly within the first 6 weeks, you're probably not going to get him over at all.
yeah.
Dad's main thing was to put him in situations to where he was going to look good and play to his strengths: press slams, clotheslines, bear hugs, things like that. And like Dad was saying, and Dingo had said in an interview they did with Court Bauer, that it was already obvious that they were cheering him. And Dingo said Gary just went to the booker and said, "Let's just let this thing happen." And look, it went off and running, and I think everything thing ended the way it was probably supposed to.
Yeah. So the next part of his question says, he's alluding to the rumor that the Big Van Vader gimmick, I guess in Japan,
Yes,
was originally supposed to have been for the Ultimate
yes,
Warrior.
that is correct.
Um,
That is correct.
so
That was
I
in
don't really. I remember hearing that, but I don't remember. So thoughts on
June.
that?
It was May or June '87, right after Dad took the book the second time. Dingo was supposed to go to Japan, and they were going to give. They had customized that helmet for him that would eventually ended up becoming Leon White, Big Van Vader. And Dingo was supposed to go over there. He's going to make several $1,000s a week. Several. He had never seen that much money in his entire life. But he started taking dates for Vince before Dad got the job back. So
Mm,
he was going to other towns in Texas, working dark matches, as they're called, or tryout matches for Vince McMahon at the time as the Dingo Warrior.
right.
And he was working places like Houston and Austin, where Dingo was already, they were already familiar with him, and he
Mm,
was already getting bigger responses than a lot of the other guys because the people here knew him. And I think they were using, actually, I know they were using the Warrior by Patty Smythe or Patty Smith, whichever, however you want to spell it,
mm,
Scandal to come
mm,
out to the ring to. So that was already in the works, but the main problem was why he wasn't able to go over there to Japan to wear the Vader helmet is because Vince and Pat Patterson did not want Inoki having any interaction with him because he could have made Dingo a lot of money over there. So he might have turned Vince down on his offer
yeah.
because he was going to be making a ton of money because he had never seen that much money his entire life, not in bodybuilding or in wrestling at that time. And he was pretty well established here, but the gates were down.
Yeah. So then the last part of it, or he comments, he says he's glad it worked out the way it did. Warrior was big in WWF. Van Vader was great in WCW.
Should have been better in WWF too.
And then he says, your dad's run in Texas with the Texas Wrestling Federation was cool, even though it was short lived. So, uh,
That fight should have been stopped. But
yeah.
I appreciate that. I mean, it was underfunded, and we did the best we could with local guys.
So for like the majority of the planet Earth that doesn't know what the Texas Wrestling Federation was, so Dad quit WCW at the very beginning of 1990.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we came back, we moved here back to Texas, and Dad started promoting
Mm-hmm.
um, wrestling
Mm-hmm.
in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a hard time for Dad.
Yes.
I mean, and So yeah, we secured a building in at Dallas.
Building fell to us actually though.
Huh?
Building actually fell to us though, because we were running a show at a small place in Fort Worth, and the ring didn't show up, and neither did the crowd, so everything was fine. But the guy who was supposed to, who was booked to referee the show, gave Dad a phone number. Some guy who was looking to run wrestling. These people were also running roller derby, and Dad ended up making a deal with those people, and that's how we secured the Metroplex Arena, which no one could find. And we ended up getting some local guys and flying some guys in and out and doing a halfway decent television show. But the people that were putting up the money, they just ran out of money.
Yeah.
Because Vanilla Ice got 90,000 from them the summer before we got in there.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's that cost them a lot of money. But it was a short-lived thing. It could have been better, but no, it just at that point in time, regardless of who was running anything in Dallas, if you weren't Ted Turner or you weren't Vince McMahon, if you weren't WWF or WCW, you were no longer in the wrestling business.
Right. Okay, so this guy said, this is, we got some
regular crime.
This is from Vincent Guzzi. He says, I saw your dad's shoot interview. He talked about wishing he could have managed Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
He made it sound like he knew what he was missing that was holding him back from being a bigger star and silence any criticism. Just curious, did your father ever talk to you both about Triple H and what did he see in him?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to talk about that?
Yeah. The first time we ever saw him, because even though when this was like 94, spring of 94, even Dad had been out of the business despite a few lukewarm attempts at coming back. TBS 605, 505 if you're in Central Time Zone. If you were in the wrestling business, you still watched TBS. And one day, it was a Saturday, a little after 505, Dad was in the kitchen, and I had Russell on. And Dad comes out of the kitchen, and he sees this guy in the ring named Terror Rising. And I think he was working with either Buck Zumhoff or the Road Dogg, who was using the name Brian James, his real name. And Dad came out and went like, who's this young boy? I said, I think his name is Terror Rising. And Dad goes, looks like Ricky did 15 years ago, Ricky being Flair. And Dad went, if I was a little bit younger, I'd be at TV on Wednesday and say, you're with me. He just saw something in him. I mean, it was fairly obvious when you first saw him because he had natural charisma and ring presence. And you can't teach a guy that. He either has it or he doesn't. And Dad was very, very impressed with him. And it got to the point where sometimes he was so misused on TBS that whenever he would come on TV, Dad would change the channel. I was like, I thought you liked him. Dad was like, I do, but I can't stand to see the way they abuse this kid. And within a couple hours of first seeing him, a few weeks after, Dad lined out a long program to me that he would want to do with Ricky and Hunter terrorizing at the time, because I could sell out every place with this. So he was always tremendously impressed because Dad was going more so for a look and an appearance, and Hunter was also a tremendous worker.
So this says, was there any opportunities for Gary to come to the WWF? If WWF opportunity could have been achieved, what gimmick do you think your father would have liked to portray? He said, I think the ringmaster gimmick, the ringleader.
Steve Austin did a good job of that when he turned into Stone Cold Gary Hart. Dad was gonna.
So that was Dad was supposed to be with Doink the clown, and he was supposed to be like a circus ringmaster.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I think the ringleader gimmick was right to pass on, but I think it could have worked if he had painted his face to disguise himself. I think this guy makes a good point. I think Dad should have, I mean, just for the paycheck alone back in 1993.
No, it's like
I think you're onto something, sir.
I mean, Dad was, I've talked about this before. My father was very, very different. He wasn't just going to do something just for a paycheck. If he was in it, he was in it.
But
I mean,
WCW,
yeah, true. WCW was paying my father a tremendous amount of money, but he was losing control of his gimmick. And Dad was one of these. I mean, that's how he was making a ton of money here, running the business for Fritz von Erich. But my father was one of those type of guys that if he was controlling something, it was his. And if you tried to take it away from him, he didn't care how much money you were paying him. Once he was no longer hands-on and you took it away, it was very, very. He didn't want to be a part of it. And as
Mm.
far as an opportunity in the WWF, my father just did not fit
I think
the
Al Perez.
WWF mold because he just didn't.
Yeah, I think I saw Al Perez did a little shoot interview not long ago, and he gave like the perfect answer why Dad, couldn't operate in the
Well, what
WWF.
Vince told Al didn't make any sense when he said,
Well, I
Al,
wasn't
I
even
mean, they're yelling at Al, Latin heartthrob, Kerry Von Erich's going to beat you up. And then Vince says, well, nobody knows who you are. Okay, that's like how New York's mentality used to be. Our fans aren't wrestling fans, but yet there's 15,000 people wearing NWO shirts. Are you selling NWO T-shirts at your merchandise stand? I mean, come on. I mean, sometimes the WWF call it a universe. They've been in a parallel one for years.
This says, how about ECW? I think your dad would have been excellent booker to help Paul. I see ECW as WCW on steroids, WCCW on steroids. I think Dad would have been really cool in ECW, like when they were really like just starting to really. I don't know much about ECW, but I know in like '97 they were kind of nationwide by that time. I think they had TV, or I just remember seeing a pay-per-view from, and I think Dad would have been. I think the fans would have really liked him up there. They liked the heels, and I think Dad would have. It was short-lived, but again, it would have been some good payoffs for that time period. But anyways,
That was, yeah, they would have liked him. They would have popped on it, but it's ECW. It's, to be honest, I think Bret Hart said it best. It was wrestling pornography. I mean, I could be in business in ECW if I had 5 guys from a wrestling school and a trip to the Home Depot.
so this says this is from Teddy Ranelli. He says, I guess he was talking about we did who we thought who Dad's best gimmicks were. I said the Great Muta, which I know you loved.
Well, I mean, if he was over so strong, why did losing once kill him?
Right.
Probably, I think it was Uncle Don or Kabuki.
Right.
One of those two.
So this guy says, no, I guess he's talking to me because I said Muta. And it says, no disrespect, but I still got to go with the Great Kabuki. If you said Kabuki, I guess.
Yeah, Kabuki or spoiler. Anyone who agrees with me is absolutely right.
So he said, I also was legitimately afraid of Kabuki as a kid because of your father's mind. Without Gary Hart, he'd been just a pudgy, middle-aged Asian guy. With your dad beside him, became a stuff of nightmares for me and millions of other kids who grew up in world class. So yeah, I think we've talked about this before that I was scared of Kabuki. Yeah, I just remember him sitting at the kitchen table, like one of my first memories, and there was this Asian dude sitting next to me in a brown dickie, and I knew who he was, and it was just weird. So anyways.
Kabuki
and I was scared of him.
Kabuki or Uncle Donald. One Man Gang was a great gimmick too, because he went. Yeah. I mean, took a guy he had just lost a haircut match in Florida, and you put some tattoos on him, instruction. And Moon was actually one of Dad's favorite gimmicks, and we were set to roll with him and Uncle Mark in that program until Ken Mantell decided that he wanted to deepen his involvement of Sunshine at every angle that he shot.
If the One Man Gang's watching, I would love a shout out.
How about it, Moon?
If anybody knows how to
how about it, Moon?
Send this video to the One Man Gang.
How about Mary? Rustle him up. Have him give us a shout out. Justin, have him do something. Come on, Moon.
So then he says, do you guys remember when Bugsy McGraw wore a gorilla suit in a feud with the Great Kabuki? Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we do. Fritz was not a big fan of Bugsy McGraw. He just didn't get it. He didn't like it. But Dad was always looking for, to do something as an eye catcher. And I think Bugsy in the gorilla suit was the final straw. Fritz rarely ever demanded Dad do anything, but no longer using Jay Saldy or Bugsy McGraw were two things that Fritz kind of got his way on. And I kind of agreed on at least one of them.
And for the guy that, if anybody sees, I don't think it was that. I mean, maybe on a couple of episodes, there was a guy that came out with Bugsy dressed like a clown.
That was not Matt Bourne.
Yeah, that was actually Mickey Grant,
yes,
the guy that was
Grant,
the producer.
The producer and director of World Class Championship Wrestling, was in Continental Productions and really came up with the idea of miking the ring, which debunked the rumor that wrestlers talk all the time. And It went from just being that one isolated shot to where you had multiple camera angles, which had never been done before in the history of wrestling. And then some of the special feature pieces that we did. So pretty, very, very intricate in the production.